Let's come down.
And whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm just waiting for someone. And it's 7 o'clock. The agenda says 7:30, but technically we're starting at 7 o'clock.
Actually, the website said 7.
It's supposed to be 7. I don't know why they did this at 7:30. So good evening, everyone. This is the January 4th meeting of the Parking and Safety Committee held over for 2015 business. And Elaine, if you could call the roll, please.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Keller? Here. Chairman Schaefer?
Here. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is approval of a motion summary of the Parking and Safety Committee meeting held November 16, 2015.
Move for approval as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Keller. Roll call.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Keller?
Yes.
Chairman Schaefer?
Yes. Item 3 on the agenda is public comment on anything that's not on tonight's agenda. Step forward and give us your name and address, sir.
Good evening, committee. My name is Carter Johnson. I reside at 86 West Lincoln Avenue in Delaware. On December 3rd, I sent an email to the 3 members of the Parking and Safety Committee in regards to some of those parking signage that had been installed. After doing some research, I had been advised to come speak to you all in regards to having either some explanation as to what caused these signs to be placed after living at my residence for 5 years, and to petition the committee to advise their removal. In the PowerPoint that I provided, we have several neighbors that are not in favor of these signs. Personally, I find them a nuisance and unattractive, as well as an obstacle when I'm maintaining the city's tree lawn. Mr. Holton, who is my neighbor, has also, via text message, and I transcribed, submitted text to his reference as far as wishing to have them removed. He states that they're a nuisance. My third neighbor, who has been living in the neighborhood since before I moved in, is no longer able to park in front of his residence as a result of the no parking signs. He currently parks off street. I cannot make testimony to him because I've not been able to reach him today once I realized that there was a meeting. There have been no parking or driving issues that I'm aware of in the 5 years that have lived at the residence. I do own a trailer. It is parked off street year round, except when it's hooked up to my tow vehicle for less than 12 hours. And occasionally I'll park it on the street because I'm getting home late at night, and I'll park it in the yard the next day. Other than that, there have been no accidents. I've not seen any issues with navigating the turns on the alley. And I apologize for the black and white printouts. The pictures aren't color. And I would like to petition the committee to proceed with having these signs removed.
Somebody give me some insight into the background.
I think I talked with Mr. Johnson prior to the meeting, and I think the issue he's talking about is parking adjacent to an alley there off of North Washington, and the issue was cars parking too close to the alley make it difficult to turn out of the alley. And so that didn't come to parking and safety because it's already legislated that you can't park, I think it's 10 feet, within 10 feet of a road or alley. So we place the signs that delineate legislatively where you can't park as it is. So The signs don't really change anything. They marked where you can and cannot park. If that, I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same thing.
So did this come to our attention from a residential complaint, or how did it come to our attention?
That I'm not real sure. I think it was a concern of someone who was using the alley. Was it trying to get a trailer out of the alley?
I think it was something they could not see to get out of the alley because cars were parked too close to it.
So basically, we didn't change anything. We just put up signs where there weren't signs based on existing traffic or parking ordinance.
Correct.
And I do understand that you're indicating that there's a 10-foot no parking. It's more than 10 foot from the alley to where the sign is placed. If it were 10 foot, then my neighbor that I referenced to you would still be able to park in front of his residence without being an issue.
Is it 10 foot or
I think
15?
it might be, I think it's 20 if it's by
Okay.
or our code, city code. So,
Okay.
because it's just like a regular intersection.
Right. Would you mind having staff just go back out and
Yep.
check and see if they're in
Yep.
compliance with the
Yep.
code? If they're further away or whatever, we can make that
Yep,
adjustment.
we'll double check them. Yep.
Okay. So we'll go back out and check, and if they're not in compliance with the code, if they're further apart than they need to be, we'll make that adjustment.
The other argument that I'd like to share with the committee is within the neighborhood in discussion, there's no other alleys that have the no parking signs. So I will petition the committee to make it consistent throughout the city. If I'm going to be subject to having to mow around signs and look at something that I see as unattractive, let's do it citywide.
Well, again, I'm going to refer to staff. It's a huge undertaking to make every alley in the city signage. The laws exist whether there's a sign there or not.
And I understand that.
But the problem that we have is if we get a complaint or there's an issue where somebody's having a problem, we put the signs up to make sure that everybody's aware of what the law is. But the signs don't have to be there. The officer could issue a ticket for violation.
That would be my preference, because 3 out of the 4 residents I've spoken with, we have testimony from one of them that was out of town and unavailable for tonight's meeting. He did send me a text. I still have it on my phone if you'd like to read it verbatim, but it's also transcribed in the paperwork that I gave you. Issue a citation. It's a lack of consistency on the city's part. I understand that there is a law, and I have no issue with the law, but it's an obstacle and it's a nuisance for those that live in the community to look at these signs. And if the individual had a problem with a particular vehicle, either speak to the owner or contact the city and have them come issue a parking citation because they're out of violation.
Well, again, we'll have the city staff go back and check the signs, and if they're not in compliance, we'll make sure that they are.
Okay, my contact information is at the bottom of the email copy that I
Someone follow
provided
up.
with you.
Yep.
Johnson? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Take care of that.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Number 4, our discussion items. First is item A, the discussion of the installation of no parking signage along the northwest side of the curb on Ballard Drive from the west side of Silverwood Drive.
I think this is a follow-up from the last meeting as it was tabled. We were
Right,
informed that not all the residents, I guess, were aware of the last meeting. So
exactly.
from staff's formal recommendation before, we are still recommending that parking be restricted on the outside of the curve. And I think there's an exhibit provided in tonight's where it shows the limits on the outside of the curve. So,
Right. And are we sure that everybody had received notice?
yes.
There, in your packet, there's a list of every address we mailed out. I've got some of them back because they're not. I got 892 back because I don't think it's a certified address yet, but all the rest presumably went through.
Is anyone here on the Ballard Drive parking issue? Wishes to speak? Give us your name and address, sir.
Sure. Hi, my name's Tom Bonacuse. I'm at 880 Ballader, number 3 on that exhibit right there. I was here last time and I did receive notice this time well in advance of the meeting. The last notice I received the day after the meeting. So They were mailed, they were just mailed late. And basically the recommendations that staff had, neighbors 2, 3, 4, and 5 all agree with. I never did speak with neighbors 6 and 7. I wasn't sure if it would really impact them or not, but everybody is in agreement there. We have, if you notice, because we're on the outer part of the curve, our lot frontage is smaller than our rear, so we have actually less parking space there because of the driveways and mailboxes, and one of my neighbors has a fire hydrant, so there's no parking in front of his house. In addition, we do have small children in most of those houses, and a lot of the neighbors are concerned that the cars create a nice obstacle for viewing from drivers if kids dart out in between them. So like I said, the neighbors are in agreement with staff. The only other recommendation I would make is that that golf cart and walking path there is not, especially on the east side of the street, is not very visible because there's some mounding there. I would recommend that you actually put signs there indicating on the east side of the street that there should be no parking within 20 feet of those that golf cart path while you're out there doing the work already anyway.
That's not part of this original recommendation, though.
No, but you're saying the no parking signs are warning signs of the golf cart path. Is that?
I'm sorry, the 20 feet that you were
Mhm.
speaking about
Mhm.
earlier, I
Just
don't,
north of number 8, there's what you're talking about?
yes, kind of north and of 8 and at least, south
Okay.
into their yard, I would guess. There is one sign there, I think, but nothing from the other direction.
Okay, but you're saying restricting parking on that side around that?
Right.
I would support that, as I agree, nobody should be parking there anyway. I mean, so,
They shouldn't. It's just that it's a golf cart path. It's not an intersection. A lot of
Mhm.
people don't realize that they shouldn't be doing that. You have people, kids walking along there, and you obviously have golf carts
Mhm.
crossing there. And if you live in the neighborhood, but if you're just visiting, you come around that curve, and
Mhm.
like I said, there's some mounding there.
Mhm.
It's hard to tell what's going on.
Can,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Go.
Mr. Chair, can I get some reminders of what we're talking about here? So it was because the signs were,
The
if I
sign-
remember correctly,
Yeah, they didn't distinguish the limits of the no parking zone.
they were the double arrows rather
Yeah.
than,
Rather than arrows pointing in. And then we further found out, because right now it's on the inside of the curve, which is opposite of where the water line is. So we needed to restrict parking on the water line side, so he has access to the hydrants and everything. And plus, there's more parking availability on the inside of the curve versus the outside. So that was why our recommendation moved the parking restrictions to the other side, but actually put the limits in it now, so.
okay.
The
makes
other
sense.
problem
Okay.
was you only had 100 feet of the entire curve covered
Yeah.
with the 2 signs.
Yeah.
Most of the curve is open.
Mhm.
So your recommendation would be on the north/west side of Ballard, from the Silverwood Drive down to the golf cart path?
Yes.
And then on the opposite side of the 20 feet of golf cart paths?
Yeah, just to, yep.
So I'll make a motion to do what he just said. Is that okay as a motion? Can you repeat it? So we make a motion to,
Let's go again here.
yeah,
We restrict parking on the north and west side of Ballard Drive, from Silverwood Drive to the golf cart path, and across the street on the east side within 20 feet of the golf cart path.
what he said. Thank you.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Jones. Whenever you're ready, roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Keller? Yes. Chairman Schaefer?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is discussion of removal of street parking in front of Delaware County Courthouse on North Sandusky Street. Welcome. Thank you for here.
Good evening.
John Melvin, Manager Facilities for Delaware County Board of Commissioners.
Tom Potts, Selling Associate Architect. you want us to,
Well, why don't we start with, we know the six, what is it, 6 spots that
7 spaces.
Seven
On
spaces.
Sandusky Street.
on North Sandusky Street, which we've already discussed. And then our concern is available public parking. And that's, I guess, what we're looking for from you now is on a day-to-day basis, what's available in terms of public parking because the spaces are going to be freed up.
Well, I mean, as the graphic shows there, we kind of delineated we're adding a net gain of 151 spaces. Now, majority of those, all of those spaces are underneath the new judicial building, with majority of them, about 35 spaces will actually be on a level that's accessed off Sandusky Street. So those will be restricted staff only being for security purposes. They're underneath the courthouse.
Sure. And so I think that's 130, right?
There's a total, that's a net, 151 is a net gain.
Okay.
Because we're losing a few parking spots in our existing Union Street parking for the Hayes Building on the east side there, where the entrance goes in, and the 7 up there along Sandusky Street. So we're having minimal impact to the surface lots that are currently there at the Hayes Building, which is open to the public. And, you know, the city has already put up public parking signs on Union Street designating those 2 lots, public
Right.
parking.
And so just I'm trying to go back for our earlier discussion. So a lot
Sure.
of people that are parking in the Hayes lot now
Right.
will be parking in the garage.
Yes, since the total 160 some parking spots being secured will be staff only. The employees of the new judicial building won't fill that up, so we'll take assigned spaces to employees of the Hayes building to park. So pull public employee parking off the surface lots and fill the building parking up, opening additional space. And we're going to obviously we're going to have an increased traffic into the courts building during business, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. After hours, those parking lots are open, the surface lots are open all the time.
So when you say, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
when you say that the Hayes lot, that's on the west side of Union Street,
We have east and west side of Union Street.
what percent, but the east side of Union Street isn't used that much, right?
Well, currently it's used daily now.
Because of construction.
Well, even it depends on the load of the Hayes building. Thursday's traffic court for juvenile
Okay.
court, so that's at, the peak load.
Depends on the day.
It depends. The east side is used quite a bit for the Hayes business, but it's not full. Even at today, we've already blocked off those 7 spots for construction. We've lost 45 spots in the southwest lot, and we've been monitoring that closely because we did have concern just today during construction that we would be able to maintain business in the Hayes building. And the lots are getting to capacity, but we're not overflowing.
and there are, it doesn't show on this graphic, but there are 140 spaces that are on that east side of Union Street.
So I guess my only concern is ideally, we'd like the public to be able to park in that, the west side of Union Street, the lot right behind the Hayes building. Is there any?
Currently, they can. It's open.
Right, but I guess my concern is what I see happening is we're going to move the people that are parking there now into the garage, and the people that are parking on the lot on the east side of Union Street are going to move up to that other lot.
Well,
We still don't really have.
I anticipate, well, especially for the, during the day when the courts are in session, obviously, we need to create public parking. I imagine we're still going to push a lot of employee parking to the east side.
Okay,
Street.
that, I guess that's what I'm looking for.
Yes, yeah, I anticipate that,
Somehow
Foretell
designate
that.
some spots there to be available for public parking on the closest to Sandusky Street. That's, I guess, was what I'm concerned. Anybody else have anything?
I'm just trying to, so, I mean, the basis of this whole thing is our concern is losing those 7 spaces. So where are those, so how are those, I'm still not following where we think that those people can then park. We're saying we're going to put them on the west side of the Hayes Park.
prior to the construction, the majority of those spots are used during the day because that's the main time those spots are utilized are employees of the Hayes building.
Okay.
I mean, that's, and, on the west side, Sandusky Street is a 2-hour parking spaces during the day, 8 to 5. And currently, I have not seen those 100% full all the time. I mean, frequently going down to do business at the commissioner's office, my office is on 23, I utilize those 2-hour spots quite a bit.
So as I look at this graphic, which is what's up there as well, so it says parking after construction, 123 spaces. That's the current amount that's there right now, right?
On Union Street.
Okay, so it's, I guess, what was confusing me is why does it say parking after construction? I mean, it could be
Well,
current. What makes it sound like there's being spaces added to it?
Yeah, before construction, the 131 spaces there inside that red dotted area that runs up and down on the page, there are 131.
The gray area.
Right. And after construction, because of ADA parking and access, that
Okay.
reduces to 123 spaces in that area.
Okay.
Then we're turning around and adding the 166 spaces.
Which to me is negligent because it's never going to be part of the public anyhow.
Yeah,
I mean, which I appreciate, it's fine, it's just my concern.
the way of looking at it, sure.
That 166 doesn't mean anything to me, so. Okay.
Can I just interject something? That garage space is where it's 166. The city and county are working on an agreement to potentially allow some of the underground parking to be used during special events. So that.
And I was part of some of those discussions. I appreciate that as well, but again, that's, to me, that's still, well, and it's also working on it, so that doesn't mean anything to me tonight.
Right. So for our day-to-day, people working downtown during the day, we anticipate that once this is all done, they should be able to park in this lot immediately behind the Hayes Building. The employees will be parking in the back lot on the other side of Union Street.
Or in the building
Garage.
parking, the garage parking.
Right.
Right. Currently, that's available today, and
Right, it's available, there's railroad spaces.
The staff parking count when the building is open will be 81 spaces that are necessary, estimated staff. And when you take in consideration, there are 166 in-building spaces, and then the 140 spaces that are on the east side of Union Street. That's roughly 306 parking spaces for staff of both the Hayes Building and the new Judicial Building, which would fundamentally cover all of the staff requirements. So that leaves the 123 in that center for patrons of the court and the general public to park in that lot. And in addition, that lot that is on the east side of Union Street, there aren't 300 employees of both buildings.
So just so I swear I'm not being difficult, it's
No.
just this is the first year and I'm still foggy, I think. So currently, the employees of the Hayes Building are parking on the east and the west side off of Union Street and in those 7 spaces.
Yeah.
Currently. So when the 166 spaces is completed, the 3 levels there at the bottom, is that for all employees of the Hayes Building, of the new building? And the Hayes Building?
And the Hayes Building. Tom mentioned the staff count is approximately 81 for the new building
Okay,
of the 166. So we'll still have, 85 spaces, which we'll utilize with, put employees from the Hayes Building in those parking.
so
To free up
the 166 spaces will be occupied by Hayes and Justice Center
Yes,
employees.
yes.
And then the business portion of it, those for court dates, just that will be parking then in the gray area.
Yeah, on the west side of Union Street.
Okay,
And we still have the east side.
They'll be on the west side.
Yes.
And my last question is, how many are on the west side and how many on the east side off of
What's not shown there is
140.
140 on the, it's not shown on the graphic here. It's on the east side of Union Street.
So that, what says 123 spaces, is that just accounting?
That's
for-
just the west side.
Okay, that's
just the west
that's
side.
where my confusion was. at.
Yes,
There
yes,
are
yes.
263
Okay.
surface parking
Okay.
spaces.
So that gray area is just the west side,
That's- yeah.
you still have the east side. That's what I was getting myself confused.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
This is coming about because of the requirements. The
Blast protection. It really is a matter of the setback from Sandusky Street.
Why aren't we worried about the setback from other public access areas? Just out of curiosity.
Number one, because those aren't managed parking spaces that are along Sandusky Street.
Okay,
If you see, there are, on that west elevation are courtrooms, and probably the more vulnerable places of the court facility. And there are a lot of reasons for its placement along that edge that are symbolic, natural light, so forth. We are responding to, if you notice, you can see how that building aligns to the Hayes building edge. So they're really kind of to the west edge of the Hayes building. You can see how that line kind of runs straight down. And that's really kind of an HPC, Historic Preservation Commission, kind of responding to the requirements of the city. Number one, needing to place a large program building in line with the rest of the urban fabric of the neighborhood and not having it set back any further. Well, it's a double-edged sword. You're taking a secure program and you're putting it along a busy street that has parking spaces in front of it that you do not have control of who is or who's not in those parking spaces. By contrast, the parking spaces that are throughout the rest of the facility, the security people inside the building can pretty much monitor the traffic and the folks that are parking close to the building. Our parking spaces on the east side of the building, if you look at the orange footprint, you can see that the only thing there inside that orange footprint on the bottom, that's all parking. That's not offices. There are no court offices there. So really the closest part of vehicular circulation to our generally office inhabited spaces is along Sandusky Street and that short segment of Marshall Court, which is on an angle there. And there's no parking there. It's one way. We want to sign that, no standing, so forth. So we're trying to take a huge building program and put it on the site and meet a lot of constraints. And there just happen to be some vulnerable points of it. I don't know. Does that, hopefully that
it
helps.
does. Philosophically, it seems like security theater to me, honestly,
It's not.
because
It's not a mandate, though.
that's what I'm trying.
It's best practices.
Okay,
It's
not a mandate.
it's totally best practices. If you had in a virgin site, undisturbed, in the perfect world, what you would do is you would place a court facility, which typically has a mandatory requirement setback of about 50 feet. If you were to talk to any security expert, what they would tell you is that you would like to have 50 foot from vehicle blast protection away from your building. Otherwise, what you're having to do is you're having to spend a ton of money on actually creating blast protection within the building to get that done, which is terribly expensive and creates budget issues. Obviously, we don't live in that kind of ideal world. What you try to do is take the constraints of the site and make it work for you. In this case, what we see is that we could get 7 spaces that we could create a perimeter would make our building more secure. And it would. Nobody in the world can ever tell us, what might happen, and that's part of the problem.
And that was on HPC, and it was farther back, and then HPC did ask it to align. They asked it to move forward.
they did.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And it is really a tight site. I mean, we're putting a lot of building, a lot of parking in this. We're paying a high premium for this parking. I mean, we have to have parking, have a building here. Otherwise, we'd have to have 160 surface lots.
So what will be in the no parking area? Just concrete?
That's actually, we extend the curb out into the street and it becomes a landscape area.
Similar to probably what's next, like the walkway next to Buns.
This is the part so what is to stop someone from driving the vehicle into the landscaping?
Bollards, probably.
Bollards and mounding of the landscaping. Just the idea that somebody can't park their vehicle there and mitigates the risk of just leaving an unattained vehicle or an unmanaged vehicle there that, the Ryder truck, Oklahoma City kind of condition is what we're talking about.
So basically, the issue before the committee is the removal of the 7 parking spaces on Sandusky Street. Approval of the removal of the 7 parking spaces on Sandusky Street.
What's the measure taken if the committee were to vote no on the removal of 7 spaces?
I mean, there's not much we can do. We can't move the building.
Right.
So, I mean, but
Oh, where do you want to go? To the mayor?
Okay, so the only entrance into this parking lot will be underneath, am I correct, on all 3 levels?
Yeah.
Okay, where's the other one going to be?
Level 100 is from here, level 200 is here, level 300 is there.
Okay, that's what I thought. I had a meeting with Commissioner Merrill, and we talked about these 7 spots. And he said kind of the agreement was if the city could use the top level after 5 on the weekends, that was kind of our give and take for those 7 spots. But now you're saying that they have to use east or west side behind Hayes building and not the top layers. I want to know what changed.
I think we're still going to work out that agreement to open that up.
Okay, so when are we going to work out that agreement? Because I thought that was the exchange. I'm not trying to be difficult, but
No,
that's what I understood. And now you're coming here tonight saying, well, now they can park over here, over here. I still would prefer the top layer of that parking lot because it'd be so much easier for the people downtown to get to.
Yes.
But during the day, they won't be able to.
Not during the day,
So our
after
original
5.
conversation was about the parking spaces that would be freed up for use during the day
Mhm.
on the Hayes lot.
Well, my meeting with Gary was
Right, just recently.
weekends. It was a couple months ago, or it was about a month ago. It was weekends, holidays, and after 5. So I just want to make sure that is still on the radar.
Which is what I think what Lance brought up.
Yeah.
At my point was the same as yours. Like,
Yeah.
it does, you know, it'd be
That
nice
was
to have
kind of the
that in
exchange.
you know, on the table tonight.
So why don't we table it until that
Exactly.
agreement can be worked out?
So you already have those spots closed off to construction proceedings, is that right?
There's temporary closure of those spots, yes.
So we're not holding anything up.
No. And as long as that won't hold up the site engineering, these 7 spots. And look at Lance.
I guess the question would be, could you construct the remainder of the site without those
Yes.
7 spots? You could leave them in flux.
Yeah, there's currently a submission before the city for the site development that needs acceptance. That set drawing shows that this change. So if it is a contingent approval of the plans, I guess is what we'd be asking for in the interim.
And I guess that's my concern is I want to make sure that things are moving ahead with construction and everything. while
Yeah,
we're-
my understanding, the engineers are reviewing the engineering drawings as we speak, and they're close to being approved.
So you don't anticipate this being an issue with that if we table this tonight?
Yeah, if this gets tabled and the 7 spaces have to be relocated, then that could occur, or, you know, as is today, that could be an administrative change on the site plan.
Okay, does that mean they can continue?
They can continue, yes. Sorry.
No, that's all right, I'm just trying to.
If we table it again, does Mrs. Keller have to come back again for?
All right, our next meeting is the 15th of February.
I think. we can-
I
Yeah,
don't know what the protocol is for that or not.
Well, we can either approve the 7 spots, disapprove them, or table it until the next time.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I have no issue with it if we're going to get the deal that the mayor was working out, you know. And I have no, my gut tells me I think it will, but that was until she just said that it's been a month now and it still hasn't, you know, been approved. And I think I think it's a prime piece of downtown and historic area that I hate to lose without getting something in return for it. So, you know, if my hand is forced to vote tonight, I would vote against it, but I'm willing, you know, to table it.
I guess that's what
Yeah,
we can make a motion to table it.
right.
and then we-
I'm just telling you where I'm coming.
Yeah.
You know, as long as we can, and I think we can get the deal done, but I'm just disappointed that it's not done tonight. Because we've been talking about it, Mayor, for how long now? 3 months? I mean, I know she had her meeting a while, so I don't know what you think.
If I would agree with everything you just said, if I'm needed to come back and vote again, I'm certainly willing to do that. But I feel like that would be highly unusual.
Like at this point, it's before the 2016 department safety.
Okay.
That's what I
I'm thinking, too.
would assume could happen.
All right, I mean, with that being said, I'd make a motion, this is the table till, we have a meeting next month, right? 15, is that,
The other part of that was the alleyway. Does that impact your project at all?
No.
So we can table the whole.
I'm Scott Miller, the owner of the property at 103 North Union Street, which is just south of the courthouse complex. There's a east-west alley that is just north of our property and just south of the courthouse complex. Hopefully, I don't see it up there, but in any event, the one thing which the county and I have reached an agreement on and was discussed, not here, but at Planning Commission, and everybody seems to fully support, is that we have our parking lot on that alley. And originally, the county was proposing the alley just to be an east direction alley, which would not work for us because our address is off of Union Street, and you try to tell people how to find our office parking lot when we're located on Union Street and they're being forced to come off of Sandusky Street. So the county worked with me and we've come up with a solution, and I think that's the second part of this plan here this evening, and that is that the portion of the alley that's running east and west, that alley that is fronting our parking lot would continue to be east-west traffic, and it would only be, that's correct, yeah, I see the arrow now. So that would continue to be east and west, and it would only be restricted to east direction further west of that point. And I would just ask that that would continue, because otherwise, how would anybody ever find our parking lot? And it would be ridiculous to force them to go up to North Sandusky Street and have to go east. And from our perspective, we've been there since the late 90s, and even today, I've never seen an issue with the east and west traffic. I've agreed to compromise to permit it to be east-west, and so that I don't have to keep coming to meetings. I would ask that you go ahead and approve that portion if we could, because I don't think that anybody's against it, but I could be making a wrong assumption. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And city staff does support that.
Yeah, absolutely. In designing this new building, we looked at the site. Really, the main area of concern was the alley there right next to the church's property is really one lane. And we're going to increase the traffic with level 200 parking coming into that alleyway. It was just a concern of that pinch point there. You know, more than happy, I can get full agreement, keep it two-way, whether, you know, it's that where the arrow is or it's clear up to, there's also a north-south alleyway next to the Frontier building. You know, just, it's.
does the alley, does it have a name, or is it just the alleyway next to it?
I don't think it has a name. I mean, Marshall Court has a name, but I don't believe the alleyway, I've never seen a name for that. I mean, it's, yeah. We recognize we're going to increase the traffic in the alleyway. We thought we wanted to try to address it,
Keep it
start the
two-way.
conversation, you know.
We want to keep it two-way.
I mean, keep it in two ways, fine. I mean, the whole, it's
So is the whole alley going to be two-way, or is it going to be two-way as we just,
up to that point.
it'll be eastbound only from that point on, is that correct?
Eastbound from Sandusky Street to pretty much the court access into the parking,
Okay.
and then it would be two-way
Two-way.
from that point.
Probably
That's
the
the way I
simplest.
understood it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay.
I think even going up to the entrance, basically we'd make our entrance, yes, well, in the entrance, because that is the delimitation church front lot and the entrance would be pretty much right here. The new building. It's just this strip right along the church is really one lane. It's the only line there for lane of traffic.
Okay, so we've got two issues then before the committee. One is the change of direction on the alley, restriction on the alleyway. The other is the 7 parking spaces. Is that correct?
Yeah. And then one additional thing I wanted to bring up that the city engineer, public works director wanted to bring up regarding the alley is obviously it's part of the plan approval. I think it's going to be rebuilt to pavement,
Yeah.
the pavement standards and stuff. And he also wanted to bring up the issue of plowing of snow. That is one of the city's lowest priorities.
Yeah.
So if you guys need access to it for your employees and stuff, that might be something that we want to have an agreement that you guys plow that. Plus, it's difficult for our big trucks to get into that area too, so.
Yes, that's why. Actually, the engineer's office had mentioned needing a maintenance agreement. I have not seen a copy of that yet.
Okay, well, we'll follow up. We'll work on that with the
Now,
maintenance
maintenance,
agreement.
maybe move ahead with the alley restrictions
Mhm.
while it's pending.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that up to make sure everybody's on the same page, so.
So just so I have this correct, it's the alley by, what'd you say, MacArthur Court, what's it? MacArthur Court,
It'd be south of Marshall.
Marshall Court?
Opposite of Court Street on the west side.
Can we name it?
Judicial Building Alley.
So it's currently two-way.
Two-way, yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep it a two-way from,
Union Street to, yeah, pretty
Back
much,
of the lot at 103 North Union.
probably the west property line. Would that be appropriate? The west property line?
All right, I got a question ready, if I may, on this.
My church temporarily used the church parking lot in question. So the question for the committee is if they move forward with the one-way restriction, is it possible to do it during the week as to not affect the church parking lot as they come and go?
I think it's pretty complicated trying to do that.
Just asking a question because right now, because I've used that parking lot, I would come in from Sandusky and I would exit to Sandusky.
Yeah. Will you still be able to come in from Sandusky, right? And it's one of these parts. So what other ways are on that? Does that parking lot exit on that?
That's what, is there any way to zoom in there? Don't you guys have another
Is there any other
access
way out of
point?
that parking lot?
Yeah, just do that.
Yeah, it's from what, like I say, my church temporarily used that space in that
Right.
building. But you would, actually, it's showing us Terra Nova, which is my church, but we've since moved to South Sandusky. But in that area, it's just the one lane going in and out. And I know that when my church was using that space, we would all come in from Sandusky and we would all exit going out to Sandusky.
Right. So now you would just have to go out to Union Street, is that right?
That's what the people that use that space would be, but it's also used on the weekends. That's why I was asking the committee.
It's difficult to, I would, staff, if I'm wrong here, but it's difficult to make that one-way part of the time and not one-way.
it's too confusing to the public,
Yeah.
to the hazard.
Which I understand, but I wanted to at least throw it out because that parking lot is directly behind the church. And I don't know how the occupants use that alley now, but from my
Well, you can find
experience.
a way to get out of the parking lot once you're in it. Okay, so,
Thank you.
all right.
So then after the west property line,
Can you just state your name again? Just because on the
Yes.
recording, it won't state who you are.
That's okay. My name is Carter Johnson.
Thank you.
then it becomes one way then from the west property line to
Sandusky Street.
Sandusky. I think I got it on already then.
Scott Miller again, hope you can hear me. You probably want to talk about the parking lot.
You get it?
I,
You get- sure you
I'm
got
sorry,
copies?
sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Make sure we're all on the same page. We have
Would you
parking
just
on
state your
both.
name again?
I'm sorry.
I will
Yes,
not
we'll get
interrupt.
this right. Scott Miller.
Thank you.
We have a parking lot that's directly behind our building, which is at 103 North Union Street. And we have a parking lot that's on the west side, or on the north side of the alley, And that parking lot right there actually extends further west than the parking lot that's behind our building. So when you make a motion, it needs to get us to beyond that parking lot that's on the north side and not just restrict it to the parking lot that's on the east side of that alley or on the south side of the alley. Did that make sense?
Is this building going the long way right here? Is that lawyer's title?
This is building. This is our parking behind here.
Okay,
It needs to come all the way to here, some point here. And then this needs to be two-way, that all needs to be one-way. That help?
Right, so it's.
Yeah, so how do we?
Yeah.
So it's get away from Union to the.
To the
Would it be
west
simpler
edge of the
to say
parking?
two-way to the new judicial building parking?
Right.
Because we are
To the west
removing that
property
retaining
line.
wall
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
regrading that, so.
And it's one way from the west property line to Sandusky.
Or, I mean, again, we see a potential problem there. So, I mean, even if,
From the entrance.
Yeah, I think we got it.
our plans are contingent on anything that this isn't affecting any security or anything like that. It's just trying to foresee a possible problem with that alleyway there.
Yeah, and I
In
think-
terms of identifying the terminus of the two-way alley, probably.
Yes, I
courthouse
think
parking.
everybody knows what we're trying to do here, so. Right?
I mean, even if there's no action, plans move forward.
All right, all right. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Is
Mr. Chair,
there an
Do you-
effective date you want on?
just one other item.
Oh, good Lord, jeez.
This is actually to answer your question. We do have a meeting in February. It's February 15th. I believe that question went unanswered, so I did want to answer that.
Chairman, do you want these in any order at all, or do you want to, does it matter? I guess first I would make a motion that we table the discussion, the final motion on the 7 spaces on Sandusky Street until the February meeting.
second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mrs. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Keller?
Yes.
Chairman Schaefer?
Yes, so that part of the issue is tabled until February 15th.
Then also make a motion that the alley opposite of Court Street is a two-way street from Union to the west property line of the,
County,
I'm sorry?
county building?
Yeah, the county
County
building, I'm
property.
sorry.
East.
Yeah. And
West.
then becomes a one-way street to Sandusky Street.
One-way alley.
Huh?
One-way alley.
One-way alley to Sandusky. Let me start again. My motion, Elaine,
Yes, sir.
is that the alley opposite of Court Street is a two-way alley from Union Street to the west property line, county property line, and then becomes a one-way alley to Sandusky Street.
Second.
Is it?
Eastbound direction.
Eastbound direction.
Is it the east property line we're talking about?
It'd be the east property line of the county. I guess the property lines are
Well,
here.
just maybe one more comment. There, again, that alleyway,
So hard because there's no names.
there
in
is
it.
this alleyway, and if we go to this point, it doesn't create a dead end. Too late. Just throwing it out there.
So
That's a
then
good
that would
point.
make the
If you
That's
keep
a
it
good
to
point.
that,
rear of the parking lot of the church as the end of the two-way alley. Is that what you're suggesting?
Here's what I think.
that north-south.
This two-way up to this alley.
Yes.
Exit point on the central end. Make a motion, modify the motion, to make it two-way to the north-south alley,
To the what, north-south?
to the north-south alley, runs off east-west alley.
Which goes to, yeah, the north-south alleyway that goes
I
through
don't
Central
know
Avenue.
alleys.
That way you do not create a dead end or a trap.
The only concern I have, where's your access to the garage?
Just
It'd be east of that. So you could have potentially more traffic possibly accessing from that garage out that to Central Avenue, and that kind of,
I think we would-
that's pretty narrow,
Well,
correct?
I think, I think we would direct our traffic left turn exit.
Okay, so there'd be
down the
signage alleyway. for that they would
Yeah.
have to, okay. so
Yeah,
you-
we would not
okay.
want them to go
Okay,
to
that makes
Central
sense.
Avenue.
I'll try this one more time.
I'm going to try it. I'm going to see this through. It takes all night. So the motion now is that the alley opposite of Court Street is a two-way alley from Union Street to the north-south alley off of Central, is it? Off of Central. It then becomes a one-way alley to Sandusky Street.
Eastbound.
Going eastbound. That is the motion.
And I'll second that.
I'm just gonna make sure she has it before we.
So one question I've got, so you say to the north, I mean, to that east-west alley, where are you gonna put the signage? In other words, the signage really needs to be on the west side of that north-south alley. So is it clear enough from the staff perspective? When we say two, do we know that these people are gonna go come this way then? And so New Dot Theater is gonna be here?
I have to assume that's where you put, one way begins here or something like that, one of those type of signs.
Yeah, and then I think at Union Street, we would have no through traffic there
Yeah.
too, so we make sure that people understand they can't go all the way through anymore.
Yeah. Do you want to hear it
Okay.
again? or
Do you want me to read it?
Sure. No, I think we got it.
Yeah, I think-
If you're comfortable,
I'm okay.
Okay.
It said-
In that case, we have a motion by Mr. Jones, and second by Mrs. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones,
yes.
Vice Chairwoman Keller,
Yes.
Chairman Schaefer.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you all very much. Next item on the agenda is committee comments.
The only one I have is to thank Councilwoman Keller. I know we've served on this committee for at least 5 years that I've been on it, so I know there's a change in who's on this, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I've enjoyed working with you, and I will turn it over to Mr. Hellinger. I know that he will do a great job, and thank you so much.
Thank you for your service. Welcome, George, to the committee. If nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
We are adjourned at 7:51. Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to go see the alleys. I'm going to drive by these alleys.